Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Beyond the Barclay with me, Jez Davies. I'm, of course, joined with Morgan. How are you?
Very well, thanks. I was just waiting for you to say illustrious co-host.
Illustrious co-host, yeah. And we're very lucky to also be joined with Cillian as well. Hello, Cillian.
Hi, good to see both of you.
Yes, so obviously we're a few weeks out now from the end of the season. So we had the news yesterday. We've got a new manager. So hence us coming on and jumping on the new manager bandwagon that everyone seems to have done before us.
But they haven't got such a fiery quip as this. So what do you get if you cross Liam Manning with a sap Manning tree?
Downhill from here.
The funny thing is, my mum used to live in Manningtree.
Oh, there you go. Thanks for joining us on this podcast and spending your time with us this evening.
No problem. Well, I was going to say that manning up's a good thing, but Norwich have taken that quite literally. A
whole 45 minutes of this.
Bad joke.
Just do 45 minutes of jokes, shall we? I think tonight we're just coming on just to talk about his appointment first and foremost, what some of the fan reaction has been. So we'll perhaps look at some of the forums. If AD does join us, we'll talk about his insight as an ex-player. And I just want to hear from you two about how you're getting on this summer and what your plans are for the rest of it before we reconvene.
Okay. I don't know what plans are this summer. So.
Oh, good. Probably to work on that quiff, I'd imagine, but we'll see how that goes over the summer. Morgan, perhaps if we chuck it over to you first, what was your first reaction when you heard the news yesterday that we definitely didn't expect that to happen, did we?
Did I lie?
Well, I mean, it's been talked about for about a week and a half, hasn't it, by various outlets, but. Yeah, it was Norwich's worst kept secret when he was appointed, wasn't it? But what was your overall first impression?
Excitement. I was like, oh God, this guy Liam Manning, he's exactly what I've wanted and hoped for since before Hoff, to be honest. I was like, he knows the trick. Obviously I'm lying.
Yeah, I think go on, carry on.
I was like, cool, you know. It's like you said, it's the worst kept secret for about 10 days. To be fair, like I didn't really know too much about what he's done at Bristol or his career. To be fair, I mean, I know I'm part of this podcast team, but sometimes I'm a bit slack with my research, I have to admit. But yeah, I can't say that I was. It's like me and Cillian were talking about earlier. I can't say I was like, whoa, or dismayed. I was just like, cool, okay.
What about yourself, Cillian?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was obviously it's a changed world with social media where every second of every day is being reported on and counted on. So it is quite unusual to have such open speculation that turns out to be right. So I think whether it was deliberate or otherwise, I think people were well prepared for the appointment.
Yeah.
And for me, you know, there's nothing wrong with the appointment. There's nothing massively exciting by it. I think he should do a good job. He's got the right experience if what's to be believed in terms of Bristol and their lack of investment in their team. With the investment behind him, hopefully he can do better than he did in Bristol, and he did okay there. So, yeah, I think time will tell. For me, 6th of June is the key date when we see the fixtures, because I do think if we get a good run at the start, I think the fans and the team will get behind him. If the opposite happens, then we could be back into, you know, this is a fairly fickle fan base. And I think there's very high expectations. I don't think anybody will tolerate another transition season. And if anybody mentions that from a club side, I think there has to be strong aspirations, really clear of what we're going to achieve. And I think he's going to be measured and judged on that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with both of you. And I think a good friend of mine, and I promised I'd mention this. We were chatting about it yesterday when the news broke, and his exact quote to me, Stuart Clark, by the way, I know he'll be watching this. It was not a sexy or a exciting appointment, but it's a sensible one. You know, the guys at Norwich, Ben Napper, has looked at it and gone, okay, so we need a manager that's experienced with English football. We need a manager that has had, as you mentioned, Cillian, success in the playoffs last year, and we need a manager that brings youth through, which he's done at Bristol and other clubs he's been involved with as well. He's worked at West Ham under 23s, so you know he's got that experience of working for a Premier League academy. And yeah, so when you're listening to this, Stuart, I agree with what you're saying. It's a very sensible appointment. The guy's worked wonders with I don't want to call Bristol City a poor side, but I would say any Bristol fan would say that they've overachieved last season to make the playoffs. Yeah. So for me, I think it's a good move.
Yeah, I said to I talked to myself about this a couple of weeks ago, because no one else listens to me. So I said to myself, well, the thing is, if we were sliding horribly down the table towards the end of last season, right?
Yes.
And we had this idealistic head coach that I think I was like, well, we need to batten down the hatches and steady this ship. And whether that means that we finish 8th next season, if I can see some kind of progress on the pitch and I'm like, cool, this is actually going somewhere, then I'll be happy. But the last 5 months before the season ended, I saw nothing but regression across the entire team, and nothing to convince me that Hofthrup was the right man for the job at the time. I know we've done this to death, has been done to death. But the point is, I don't necessarily believe that Manning's steady. I just think he's solid. And right now, the way that I keep having these nautical comparisons, but right now we need to batten down the hatches and we need to steady that ship. I as much as in my heart of hearts, I was like, oh, I hope we sign someone like, I'm making a name up here right now, but Piers van Piers, the Dutch lord of possession-based football who plays a version of total football. I hope he comes in out of nowhere. And like Cillian said, this has been a fairly obvious appointment that's been in the wings for a while. So I think that excitement that we had with Daniel Farke and we had with Hoff hasn't been there. Yeah. But do we want that right now? And I'd probably say no. No. An idealist is definitely not part of what we need.
Cillian, over to you. What would you liken this to any other appointment that Norwich have made within the last 20 years?
It's a great question. Probably not. And I think one of the most impressive things for me is that we've taken him from a championship rival.
Yeah.
And he was a working coach, not under any threat job-wise. I think, we've either hired people who've been out of work or people who've been sacked from somewhere or people that were unknown. Like the Farkas of the world, turned out really well eventually. But for me, that to me was impressive. It shows that Norwich still has that power of attraction to be able to attract a name like that to the club. So I think that's a concern I would have over time. Yes, and I think one of the things Stuart Webber did well was investing in the off-field side of things with the colony, for example, the academy and stuff like that. And I think, I know that was pitched very much at attracting players, but if the club is not performing, that attraction would drop. And I do think it's a good sign that Ben Napper was able to attract somebody of that calibre.
No, I agree. And I think as well is Morgan, you mentioned about Hoff last season, and you're right, we have discussed that to death. I would like to think that every single one of those players that is still there next season is going to go in with a clean slate and operate in a different system as well. We'll probably come on to that a little bit later on, but he plays a 4-2-3-1 formation, which for me is how Norwich have had their most successful period over the last probably 10, 15 years playing that way under Farke. As soon as we went 4-3-3, it's gone downhill, But then on the flip side of that, he was able to adapt that at Bristol City with playing three at the back as well. So I think that for me is going to be key. I think, again, we seem to have said it for the last 2 or 3 years, but recruitment this season is key, and perhaps keeping hold of. I think Signs, in my personal opinion, Signs is gone regardless. But I think there's a relatively good chance Sargent will still be with us on September the 1st.
Although there has been some speculation in the last 24 hours about Roma coming in for him.
Yeah. I mean, I just think with that is, will they match what Norwich want them to pay? What do Norwich value Josh Sargent to be? And do Roma think that's the same, if that makes sense? And you've got a player there who hasn't completed a full season through no fault of his own, but he can't keep himself fit throughout a full season. He never has at Norwich. So I think if he was to keep himself fit, then he'd be more of a sellable asset.
Well, he wouldn't be at Norwich.
True. Yeah, he probably wouldn't be. He'd probably be at a lower end Premier League club or a Bundesliga club or something like that. But yeah, I think, probably going down a bit of a rabbit hole here. So let's talk about
I do think, and I don't know if either of you know what the track record Manning has with injuries at Bristol, but that's obviously for me a big concern for Norwich over the last few seasons has been the level of injuries. And, it seems I was listening to some podcasts and it seems to be a challenge for Arsenal. And just to be a slight worry for me with obviously Ben Napper and his Arsenal heritage, like, is there something that we can do to cut out the injuries? And I don't know if Manning, where he sits, I haven't researched him enough to see whether Bristol had a lot of injury problems or whether they didn't.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think that we had last season under Hoff quite an intensive regime. Some of the most intensive in the championship, I think.
The birthday girl, by the way. It's her 15th birthday tomorrow, Morgan.
Oh, wow. Happy
That's
birthday.
why she wanted to appear on the podcast.
There you go. What's her name?
Chloe.
What's her name?
Chloe.
I don't think I ever remember you saying you had a cat.
You met her? Yeah, when you came to my house before we went to that game, whenever you were in London. I can't remember when it was. A long time ago. Anyway, carry on.
Sorry, I completely lost my train of thought. But yeah, like I think that we were some of the, the regime that we had under Hoff was like quite demanding on the players, probably too demanding. I remember Farke had a particular challenging kind of season, that first season, 17-18, with what he wanted to do. And I remember a few players came out and said that, like, I think it was Jerome who said he just couldn't keep up with the training regimes. And I think that'll be interesting, Cillian, with regards to Manning and how he sets up the team and what he expects from the training side of stuff. I'm hoping that it potentially isn't quite as intensive. I think that's where a lot of the injuries came from. Was just how intensive the training sessions were last season. So yeah, hopefully there's something that they're aware of, or the facilities that we have. I still struggle with that. Like the facilities that we have in Colney and the amount of injuries we had just didn't make sense to me.
And there's a lot of things like hamstring injuries and calf injuries.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's, as you say, Cillian, I think they've just got to find the root of it. And if it's an Arsenal issue or a Bristol City issue, hopefully it won't become a Norwich issue, and that they can have a season where we don't get these injuries. And sometimes it's as much as the players that you get that are just injury.
Yeah,
is the issue. So it's I don't know. So Liam Manning, I've got his Wikipedia page up here, as prepared as ever. He's an English football manager and coach, and he's currently head coach of Norwich City. His previous clubs, so he was, as I mentioned earlier, was at West Ham under 23s. He was at, and you're going to have to forgive my Belgian here, but Lommel, Milton Keynes Dons.
Never heard of that place.
As we talked about with Jodie a few months ago. We did a whole episode on Milton Keynes, didn't we? Oxford United, which isn't far from Milton Keynes. Bristol, obviously he's just joined us. For me, other than West Ham, where he spent a long time, he hasn't really stayed around for probably longer than a year or two. So he was only at Oxford for a year. So, I mean, I guess that's probably going to be starting on a bit of a negative question, but is that an issue that he hasn't stuck around at a club for very long? Is he seeing Norwich as a stepping stone, or do you think he's
always been a stepping stone, though? That's the thing. And like, the sooner that a lot of our fans understand that, the happier they'll be. Like, we're not sitting in the middle of the Premier League like Crystal Palace. Like, we are, we're a stepping stone for players and coaches. We always have been. I mean, I think there's a big part of me that feels that this appointment echoes a little bit of Lambert in that it was a rival, League One rival that we poached the coach from. Yeah, he I think there's a big part of this that feels like, obviously you have a super sexy Piers Van Peersville football like European coach, whereas this feels a bit like a Ford Mondeo. But like Lambert, like when Lambert came in with his team with Carcer and Culverhouse, was everyone like, oh, great. Like, I'm super stoked that Lambert's come in. He's going to be an amazing coach for us and we're going to fly into the Premier League and finish like 14th. No one thought that.
No.
So there's a part of me that thinks that hopefully our expectation levels are lower than they have been, and that gives Manning that opportunity to really give something back. 4 years it seems quite hardball by any stretch of the imagination. It's a long time for a deal.
Yeah, I mean, as I said to you at the time, though, I think that protects Norwich more than it protects him.
How do you mean?
If someone does come in, whoever comes in and wants him is going to have to pay for him to release him from that 4-year contract. So that is really, for me, it favours Norwich.
Yeah.
But I think that if, heaven forbid, it doesn't work, there'll be some break clauses in that. I don't know. I mean, I'm not an expert in that side of things, but I just think, 4 years is, as you say, it's a very long time. So it's a risk if it doesn't, but at the same time, it does protect us if he does go and do very well in a lower end Premier League club come calling for him.
Yeah.
I think I liken it to Lambert as well, Morgan. I think, not in terms of style or what's the word I'm looking for? Personality, but Nathan Jones at Luton as well, similar sort of rise to fame almost. And I think he went on to a Premier League club and didn't do so well. So who knows? I mean, just touching on some of his time at West Ham, and it says here that he was credited with as having contributed to the development of England international Declan Rice.
Okay.
So,
Nice.
I mean, that Declan Rice would have been coming through the West Ham Academy around the same time that he was coaching there. So that's, I think that level of player there, the season that Declan Rice has just come off the back of, should show us a little bit of positivity. Hope might be a bit of the wrong word to use, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You've got a ladder behind you, Morgan.
No. It's my lucky ladder.
Nice. I was trying to think of a gag.
Touch it. It's his fire escape if he needs it.
Or a stairway to heaven.
I just reckon, I'm talking about music and tunes, I think some of our listeners need to come up with a chant for Manning that includes a Ford Mondeo. I think that's just a
Yeah, definitely.
Mondeo would last 4 years.
I think on that subject, Cillian, someone on X yesterday was floating the idea of East Anglian Boy by Leon Mallet. They should come up with a song for that. And obviously, when Leon come on and did the interview with us, he did say he wanted to do a Norwich City related song. So that might be quite a good one for you to do, Leon. So yeah, I mean, that's just
you've got Ford Mondeo in there. We're set.
It's got to be something about
the cars available.
Yeah, 100%. So I mean, we haven't really talked much, and I'll be honest, I don't really know much about these two assistants. It's Chris Hogg and Kraus, who's the other gentleman who's more of a tactical analyst as well. Do either of you two know anything about those guys or much
Chris
about
Hogg played with Manning at Ipswich.
Okay, yeah.
And was a coach at Ipswich. He's George Burley's son-in-law, I believe.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah.
Definitely has blue blood, so it'll be an interesting appointment at Norwich.
Yeah.
But he's obviously done a very good job. He's been with Manning at MK Dons, I think Oxford and Bristol. So they're part of a team. So they obviously work well together, know each other for many years. Again, I think it's interesting. And this is, if you wanted to look at a comparison with Farke, I think, neither of them had a particularly spectacular experience as players.
Yeah.
They've done well on the coaching side, but as players, House is also from Ipswich. That's where he joined up with them, as far as I know. Even Liam's wife worked at Ipswich, so there's a strong connection with our neighbours, one way or the other.
Yeah, that's good. It's as good a start as any, isn't it? So
you look uncomfortable, Jez.
Well, just thinking that the word Ipswich was mentioned probably about 4 times as too many. It's not Cillian's fault.
You say the candy man into the mirror 3 times, and you're from behind.
The other Liam we have is one of ours, so Liam Manning can be as well, along with all the rest of them.
Yeah, I think that'll be. I would imagine that'll be something if it fits. Liam Manning's one of us. Yeah, that fits. So I think that'll be sung.
Yeah, of course.
Be interesting on Derby Day next season, won't it? With him in there. So
bit spicy.
Yeah, it will. I'm just going to read some sort of fan
mail for you.
Mail, yeah.
For you. Hey Jez, I really like your glasses. They're really cool. How did you get them from? Jez, what's the name of your barber? You have such a tight fade. Yeah,
I had it done for my holiday, which is next week. Hope it's there we go. Anyway.
You don't deserve one.
No. Sam Kenwood. Welcome, Liam. Wishing the best. We all need to get behind the manager and support the team. Onwards. 44 likes. Scott Medler. About as interesting as a bowl of custard.
At least it's, you know what? At least it's yellow.
Yeah. I mean,
at least it's yellow.
Yeah. Okay. Michael Oliveira. Love that. It's a 4-year deal, but he'll be sacked after 4 months, just like the rest of the managers that entered the circus.
With a new Watford.
You'd feel left out as a team if you didn't change your manager at this rate. So Michael Carrick got the bullet today. So
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
I mean, I'll be honest, I think there's a lot of comments here that I don't really want to read because they could sort of follow a similar sort of pattern. Zoe Sullivan, awesome, Liam. I remember you so well when you was a youth player for them and lived at my mum's. All the best. Look forward to seeing you at the next derby. Nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sean Kelly, all the best, Liam. Welcome home on the Ball City. Yeah, I mean, they're all sort of like just good luck messages or not, shall we say. But I think it's been a real sort of mixed bag. I think, Marshall Clark here has said at least we have a manager born in Norfolk and a lifelong supporter of our club.
He doesn't support Norwich, though.
Doesn't he?
He supports Man United. This has been doing the rounds for like 10 days or more. I'm bored of reading about it. I'm bored of it.
I had Liverpool, Man United. That's the same sort of way, isn't it, I guess?
No, he's a Man United fan.
Fair enough.
Like many kids were back in the day around here.
Yeah. Okay, gents. I think we were just going to do this as a half hour. So, I think what would be quite nice is we haven't done a proper episode for a few weeks. Just have a bit of a check-in, see how you both are. Morgan, I'd love to talk to you about the stag weekend that you went on a few weeks ago with our videographer, Ben Glacier. Perhaps you'd like to just talk a little bit about that and what happened.
So shout out to Ben Glacier, who's getting married in September. He's one of his best men with Ven. And he got off lightly, I think. So we all so went out to Cheltenham because it was equidistant for a lot of people. And I told everyone that I bought Ben a full Ipswich Town kit in size small. And Ben is 6'3", I think. So that was quite a sight to behold. And so he wasn't aware of this. Instead of getting dressed up as a golfer or a bride to be or whatever, he was dressed head to toe in a full Ipswich Town kit, whilst the rest of us wore just Norwich shirts. I couldn't put the rest of the boys in a full kit, a Norwich kit. That's not fair. So yeah, I remember I said to Ben, I was like, I've always wanted you to dress up as a full kit, Ben. And I had a Norwich shirt in my hand, and I was about to hand it to him, and I handed it to one of the other lads, and I said, "Oh no, Ben, this isn't your full kit." And then whipped out the Ipswich Town kit in its cellophane and threw it at him, and he was just like, but he got into it. He got into the whole thing and did his stretching and his limbering up before he hit the mean streets of Cheltenham, whilst people laughed at him. And obviously we had to explain that we were Norwich fans. Yeah, that was I couldn't stop laughing looking at him. It was quite embarrassing, but fair play, he got into the swing of things.
No, it's good. I saw the photo. It looked superb. I'm just trying to find some of the comments.
Did some Ipswich Town fans comment on it?
Well, I mean, it's bizarre. I mean, there's a group on Facebook called Norfolk UK Community Notice Board, and the amount of Ipswich fans that we seem to have in Norfolk is so Ian Walk, not the Ian Walk, commented he's the best dressed one there. Stephen Flack wrote, at least the stag will now know what it's like to wear an FA and UEFA Cup winners shirt.
Of course he did. Of course he did.
Yeah, I'm just some of the ones I can't actually read, to be honest.
Yeah, don't do that.
It's I can't read that one. Yeah, Roger Smith, he'll get his revenge, I bet. Perhaps he will. Who knows?
So we got trolled quite heavily then.
Yeah, Fiona's going to make me a cup of tea. Thank you very much.
For those fans at home who don't know who Fiona is, that's Jez's long-suffering wife.
He said, "You're my long-suffering wife."
Nearly 9 years.
Oh, I know. Crazy, isn't it? Yeah. So I'm just seeing if there's any. I would cancel their invite to the wedding. Poor sod.
That's a great one.
That's good. But yeah, it was, I'm glad you boys had a good time. It looked brilliant. So that's good. What about yourself, Cillian? What have you been up to? I'm sure that the fans that watch O'Grady's Outlook and all the things, the brilliant things you've done for us this year, would love to know what you do out of season.
Stay away from airports. It's my number one hobby. As much as I love Dublin Airport, it's nice to get a break from it. To be honest with you, I haven't been doing it. I've been watching football, the bits that have been on some of the European matches. Out in the motorbike a little bit. We had a nice little spell of weather there for a couple of weeks. It's now been back to being miserable again. and just working away. So I'm looking forward to the season starting again, but it's nice to get the break from the travel, to be honest. So only when you stop do you realise how much of a toll it takes on you.
I mean, you're kidding. You're kidding. You go to more or less every single home and away game. Like, I'm like, how do you do that?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to a few of the newer places. I like and Wrexham.
Yeah, Wrexham. That's quite close for you, right?
Charlton, I'm not sure about.
I like Charlton.
Madly fussed on London, to be honest, as a venue to go for football matches.
That's because we never win.
Possibly that might explain it.
I'm actually looking forward to the Beyond the Barclay barbecue invite to your down.Jez, which seems to have been lost in the post, but you can't escape it. So I don't know why you're fighting it.
If it was a little bit brighter, I would do a pan into the garden, but it's got a little bit darker now. So I can't really sort of reveal the garden at the moment, unfortunately.
That's good, because when we come to yours for the barbecue, we can film it for the podcast.
Why not? Yeah.
You're saying it's not barbecue ready? Needs a break first.
I went to Richard Ashcroft last weekend at Stevenage Football Club.
How was that?
It was brilliant. Yeah, it was. Thank you. Very kind. Do you want to talk about Declan Rice? Rice, baby. There you go. Thank you. It's probably the best input that's been made this season, to be honest.
Why are we still going?
Yeah. No, it's brilliant. Yeah, I've seen Richard Ashcroft a few times, but to have him on the doorstep was great. So it was. I think Norwich should do more stuff like that. I mean, I know it's difficult, but they did an ABBA tribute act the other day, didn't they? Which I think was okay.
Yeah, they did. I was at the Carrow Road. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it'd be good to get a big act there. And I'm not professing that Richard Ashcroft is a big act, but he's supporting Oasis this year.
Elton John played there.
Yeah. So I mean, it would be,
take that as well.
I think it would certainly be good to see them back for good.
That was awful.
Isn't it, Morgan? Sorry.
Huh?
I just did a take that gag.
I got it. It didn't go over my head. I noticed. I'd like to see something like a thrash metal weekend at the Carrow Road. So Slayer, Megadeth, Metallica. Probably a bit too big for the Carrow Road, though, I reckon.
What about, just notes going back to the football thing, but who do you think we should buy this summer?
I've got one. Mo Salah. You want a sensible answer, don't you? I could tell by the look on your face.
Probably, yeah.
Mo Salah?
Pitch at Carrow Road's too short for him, so we need somebody else.
I really don't know. I think, to be perfectly honest with you, I'm really kind of like, don't really. We signed so many potentials last summer that I'd hope that they kick on this year. Now they've had a taste of the Championship, and if Jurasek comes back and is as good as what he's touted to be, then we've got a winner on our hands that's just sitting in the wings anyway. I mean, I think that anyone we get is probably going to be quiet. It's going to be a low, like 2-3 million signing. I think that's where we do best. In fact, I was reading that on the forum today, that we seem to do best when we buy unknowns or players that have been like sidelined in their previous club, haven't really kicked on. Whereas when we start spending money, we always seem to buy duds. I don't know. That's just my feeling about you guys. What about you, Cillian?
I think we need to sort out something on the goalkeeping side of things.
Yeah.
There's obviously been a couple of names bandied about. I hope we get in a decent goalkeeper to replace him.
What's wrong with George Long?
What's wrong with him? I don't think he'd be with us.
No, I don't. I think he'd be off.
Look at the smirk on my face.
No, I think he'd be off. Simply because he's fallen to third in the pecking order, and he won't want that. Stan Grimshaw doesn't fill me with massive confidence in terms of being a number one. I think he's a steady number two. I didn't realise he was 27. I thought he was a bit younger than that. But I think having a 27-year-old goalkeeper that was number one at Plymouth until very recently, I think he'd be a good bet for a number two. But you're right, Cillian. I think we need another goalkeeper that's going to come in as a number one. Who that is, I don't know.
They've been speculating about that guy in Portugal, haven't they?
Well, they're Kovacic, who was labelled by some as the Bosnian George Long.
By some, we know who by. you're just being coy. He's reading too much Pinken. That's your trouble, Jez. Too much Pinken for him.
Yeah. So, no, you're right. It's the off season, isn't it? I tend to live on the Pinken forum during the off season. I probably shouldn't.
Don't worry about it.
But so no, I think we need someone that's got a bit more experience about them. I quite like Kaminsky. I think it was a lot of what was wrong with him was the defence he had in front of him. Probably their best player in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Is Carlton Morris still at Luton?
Yeah.
Not for long, though.
I wouldn't touch him. And that's no disrespect to Carlton Morris. He's been there and done it. I think we need a little bit more of a younger profile up there. Again, who that is, I don't know. A lower end Premier League. We've got Lewis Dobbin coming back, supposedly. I think that's going to get announced pretty soon.
How do you know that?
How do I know that?
Yeah.
The club communications, didn't they? Probably about 2 weeks ago with the release players, and on that they said that Lewis Dobbin was
in discussions.
Yeah, I haven't got any links to the club, Morgan. Don't worry, I haven't told you about.
We do, but
Cillian.
he's ITK. Have you got that tattoo in ITK?
But no, I think we need at least one striker, perhaps two, if the unthinkable does happen and the Sergeant ups and leaves, and a capable centre back. I know we're quite oversupplied in that department, but
I don't know about Cordoba. Just I think that he started so well. I think he had a mare at I can't remember what the cup was, the African Nations Cup or something. Not the African Nations Cup because he's from Panama.
Nations League.
Nations, yeah, that's what I'm getting confused with. The Nations. So he had a mare at that, and I think after that it just kind of went down. I'd like to think that Manning might be able to coax his quality out of him again, and we'll be able to see like the player that we bought last year. I'm quite excited. I really want it to work out for him. I really do, because I think that he's got quality, and but we, as a club, we've never been known not to buy a centre back with a clanger in him, have we? So
yeah, you're right. Okay, gents. Well, I think we've reached a natural conclusion. Thank you both for coming on at such short notice. I'm actually really excited. I think now it's we've got our man. It's time to move into pre-season, and I sound like a club spokesman, don't I? We've got our man.
What was a sweeping hand gesture?
I don't know what that was. That was me chucking him.
That looks like something Elon Musk might have tried.
I thought it was a martial arts move.
It was a bit special, wasn't it? But no, I think for me, it's when are the players back in training? It's the end of the month, isn't it? So
I'd say a few of them on international duty this week, so I'd imagine they might get an extended break.
Yeah. End of month, probably middle of July, we'll start looking and taking shape when we start looking at some of the pre-season games as well. I hope you both enjoy the rest of your summers. But Morgan, we're going to be catching up and speaking to some fans, aren't we? Hopefully that have won things, FA Cups and Europa Leagues, etc. So I'm looking forward to speaking to those guys over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, so that's a Beyond the South Stand sort of summer special called Beyond the South Stand off script, where we don't have a script. We have, but you know what I mean. So that's our next moves, and Cillian's going to steer clear of airports.
Yeah.
But will I see you if they Norwich play a friendly in Durham? Are you going to come to that game?
In Durham, but I don't think they will this year.
How do you know?
I think it'd be very unlikely.
Kings Lynn?
To be honest, I think they've announced all their friendlies, haven't they?
Have they? I don't know if they've announced any of the UK ones.
Maybe another one on the continent somewhere in Switzerland, or maybe another one in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think
if they play any Norfolk bound friendlies, I'll see you there.
Absolutely, I'll make it to the airport for that, no question.
Well, thanks, gents. Just for everyone else, Morgan, you can do a random question, or we're going to bin that for this week. You got to, don't you? Well, Cillian, you can. As Cillian, when he came on and we did the Beyond the Barclay, when was that, Cillian? Back in January, wasn't it?
Yeah, back in January, yeah.
Back in the day.
Morgan wasn't involved at that stage, so you wouldn't have had a random question of the week. So
I've avoided the question of the week.
Okay. I'm gonna nominate Cillian, and Morgan, you got to sing the theme tune and give Cillian his question. Over to you, sir.
Okay. Question of the week.
No chair spin there.
Sorry. I'll do it again. Random question of the week.
Superb.
Okay, so as you can see behind me, I've got my lucky ladder. If there's any item that you have that you use to give you luck, what lucky item is it, and why do you consider it lucky?
That's a great question.
I just came off the top of my head from nowhere.
My lucky item, you'd be assuming that I'm very superstitious. I've got a Bikers Ireland keyring.
Right.
That has the Irish tricolour, but it's a cloth one that has certainly kept me safe on motorbikes over the years. So
right, that's your lucky item.
That's my lucky item, yeah.
That's actually really cool, because that isn't my lucky ladder. It's just a ladder that's in this room. Thanks, Dad.
What? I've got a story on that, actually. I was thinking about that as you were asking the questions. You both obviously remember the Portsmouth game.
Which one?
When we got promoted at Fratton Park.
Not the one recently.
I thought you meant the one a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I was like,
lucky about that.
I tried to forget about the fact I was there for that 90 minutes.
So it was the Portsmouth game when we got promoted back into the Premier League under Lambert, and I went down to watch the game. And if you remember, it was the Cardiff-Middlesbrough game before, which we needed a result. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Cardiff beat Middlesbrough, which then meant that had we only drawn that game, which did we need to win anyway? Regardless of that game meant that result meant that it was in our hands basically that evening. Yeah. Anyway, cut a long story short, I was in the garden because it was a lovely summer's day, and this woman come over and sort of said, "Oh, you're watching the football?" I was like, "Yeah." But obviously from Norwich, we're hoping for a result today, and she handed me this little medal. I couldn't tell you what was on it. It was all these sort of like little things. She goes, "This will give you luck. This will give you luck." Put it in my wallet.
How much she charge you for it?
She didn't, bless her. And put it in the wallet. And as they say, the rest is history. And then we stayed in the Premier League for 3 years, didn't we? After that.
And where is it now?
Fucking knows. I lost it ages ago. So
go find it, Jez.
I mean, that's
I
basically what you're saying is that all of our downfalls since then is because you lost that sodding medal.
Yeah. Honestly, I just kept it in my wallet for years. I mean, nowadays people don't tend to use wallets, do they? It's all on your device.
How many old wallets you have, and see if it's out there.
You never know, do you? You never know. It might turn up.
Jez is more of a coin purse kind of guy, I reckon.
But yeah, I mean, other than that, I used to wear my football shirt when I was playing football was number 14. It is still my lucky number. Don't know if you can see that or not.
Yeah, we can. Do you know what I know? An interesting fact.
Go on.
Well, I'm born on the 7th, so obviously half of 14 is 7.
So you're half lucky. Is that what you're saying, Morgan?
I'm saying that I'm like half of his lucky number is 7. Born on the 7th, co-host 7. It makes sense in my head.
Okay. And what lucky charm have you got then? If it's not your ladder.
My quiff. I actually don't have one. I had an ace of spades that I used to keep in my wallet. I found on Morrison's car park. It was the ace of spades without any other cards around it. It was just this ace of spades. And I was like, that's weird. So I kept it. I kept it for a number of years, and it got a bit grim. So I kind of threw it away, which I don't think I should have done, because since then things have been a little bit bumpy. So yeah, that was my bad.
So there's an ace of spade and a medal out there somewhere that needs to be found.
Yeah,
definitely. Gents, it's been an absolute privilege. Thank you so much. I'll look forward to seeing you both in the new season. And for everyone else watching, you can follow us on all of the social media channels, Facebook, Instagram. What are you laughing for?
Because I love it when you do this. You go to like business mode.
Yeah, I'll start that again.
Carry on.
That's fine. You can follow us on all of our social media channels, Facebook, Instagram and X. And you can now watch the show. You can watch the show on YouTube, as well as listening to us on all available podcast channels. Thanks, everyone. I've been Jez Davies.
I've been Morgan Ewan.
And I've been Cillian O'Grady.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Have a nice summer.
That's it for this episode of Beyond the Barclay. Thanks so much for listening. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and leave a review if you enjoyed the show. You can also catch all our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And if you've got any questions, stories, or topics you'd like us to cover, get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, on the ball, City.